Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to another episode of Answers Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. We're going to get right to it. Why am I contemplating on leaving Alabama? Now, this has been a thought that has been racing through my mind for the last couple of years, almost the whole time I lived here. Now, obviously, when I came down here, I liked it down here. I liked the climate and the region of Alabama where I'm at. I'm not too terribly far from the beaches. And I also like the fact that housing here is still relatively affordable compared to most other parts of the country. I mean, down here for well under a couple hundred grand, you can still buy houses, that come with acreage. So why would I want to leave that? Well, the big reason why is because of the job market. I mean, the region of Alabama where I live, the job market sucks. And on top of that, even if I were to move to another region of Alabama to where the job market would be better due to me being closer to larger metro areas, the reason why I don't want to live in those parts of Alabama is because, for one, I'm going to have to pay significantly more money for my housing, which the prices for housing in those parts of Alabama I refuse to pay when taking into consideration how low the wages throughout the state of Alabama are. So yeah, if I go somewhere like to, let's say, north central Alabama, which would be the greater Birmingham to the greater Huntsville area, the wages there, yes, I mean, well, the job choices there will be broader. However, I'm gonna still have to be dealing with those low Alabama wages. And in order to live down here in a decent neighborhood, you're going to have to pay over $150,000 for a house. Now, I guess that could be objective. Some of you may disagree. That's cool. But that's just how I look at it. I mean, because a lot of the houses that are down here, that are within an hour of a major city down here, if you know, if I were to buy a house for even $100,000, either A, the house is going to be a fixer upper. B, the house is going to be somewhere in a neighborhood that, in my opinion, is going to be less than desirable. I mean, to be quite blunt, some of those houses are going to be in the hood. I know some of you don't like the. I know some of you don't like it when I use that word, but it is what it is. And I refuse to live in the hood, and I don't really have a desire to purchase a fixer upper because that's not my thing. It's not what I want to do. I'd rather have something that's turnkey, moving, and ready. And speaking of the job market down here, some of the craziness that I've explained the last couple of days in concerns to the interviews I've attended. When I was living up in Indiana, I never had to go through any of this craziness. And I mean never. And I lived in Indiana, before I came down here, I lived in Indiana for, let me think for a minute. I lived in Indiana for over 12 years. And when I first moved to Indiana, I moved up there at the tail end of the GFC. And even during that time, I never had to go through this craziness when it comes to looking for work as I'm going through down here. Secondly, I was able to secure a job up there a lot faster and a lot easier than down here, and at better pay. And plus, up there in Indiana, since your cities are bigger, the economy is stronger, and you have more industry up there. People like myself that know what kind of work we desire to do, and we're gonna try to stay within those fields of work. It's gonna be a lot easier for somebody like myself to get a job up in Indiana as opposed to down here where I'm at in Alabama. Even when it comes to gig work, the cities up in Indiana are bigger. The economies up there are better. And yes, Indianapolis does have its issues when it comes to crime. And I'm pretty sure, like many major cities, Fort Wayne does as well. However, you look at the issues in Indianapolis, for those of you that are familiar with Indianapolis, if you were to compare Indianapolis to Birmingham or Montgomery, I'm not discounting the issues of Indianapolis, but I'd much rather deal with Indianapolis than Birmingham or Montgomery. Not to mention that up in Indiana and in your larger cities, I can make more money doing gig work than I can in the larger cities here in Alabama. Now, the only exception to that might be if I were to try to do gig work up in Huntsville, which, to be quite frank, northern Alabama, it's a beautiful region, and the climate there is decent, but for reasons that I'll probably explain on a much later video, I don't have any desire to live in North Alabama. I'd rather live back up in Indiana than North Alabama. And when it comes to my YouTube channel, before I started doing the videos that I've been doing recently, back when I was strictly doing just drive around videos, my drive around videos I've did in Indiana actually did better than the drive around videos I've been doing down here, or over in South Georgia, or even in the Florida Panhandle. My drive around videos up in Indiana did better than the ones down here. I even put up a poll on my channel here, I want to say maybe 6 months back, give or take, of where people would prefer me to do drive around videos. And I'll be honest, I haven't looked at the polls in probably 2 or 3 weeks, but the last time I looked at the polls, there were like maybe 35% of you that told me they'd rather see me doing videos here in Alabama, but there were 65% of you that told me you'd rather see me do videos up in Indiana. So even when I look at the polls, way more of you, overwhelmingly way more of you, prefer for me to do drive around videos up in Indiana. So when I think of, I know I told you guys the other day that I really wanted to stay down here. I didn't want to leave for several reasons. A lot of those reasons are related to financial reasons. But then I got to thinking about the job situation that I'm going through down here. And when it comes to my drive around videos, I got to thinking about that. So I'm kind of thinking about things from a business perspective. And when I think about things, like when I take out some of my, when I think about things strictly from a business perspective, I mean, I'm thinking, to be quite frank, I would do better up in Indiana. I mean, from a business perspective, and I would say in the long run, also from a financial perspective. And I'm gonna add one more thing. I think if I went back to Indiana, I would probably my mental health would probably be better up in Indiana too. Because for one, as I told you guys before, I find it much easier to meet people up there than I do down here. And secondly, given that the economy up there is better for me than down here, I wouldn't be going through all this craziness when it comes to the job market. And when I look at what I want to do with my life in the future, which, you know, at least right now, my ideal life for me would be to, at some point, take several months off of whatever job I'm working, like quit the job, go to another region of the country, be there for maybe a month or two or a few, and then go back to whatever home state that I choose to reside in. Now, given the economy down here, I don't think that's going to work too well for me because the economy down here is not that great. As we're up in Indiana, the economy is a lot larger. So if I did something like that, I think things will work out for me much better up there. And another thing I notice is when it comes to, like during the interview process, that when I compare the way people up in Indiana, when I compare the way employers up in Indiana interview people versus how they interview people here in Alabama, I think the employers up in Indiana are a little bit more open-minded about people that want to live, I guess I'll just call it a alternative life, a life outside of the norm, so to speak. Like in me, I love to travel extensively, and up in Indiana, I think that will work better for me than it will down here. And back to the financial aspect of things. Now, I already know if I sell this house down here, I'm going to lose at least $16,000, which is painful. It hurts. I don't want to walk away losing that kind of money. But I think I'm beginning to think that in the long run, I'm going to still do better by selling my house here and going back up to Indiana, just due to everything I've been explaining throughout this video. Now, am I completely giving up on Alabama? At this point, no. I'm still, like yesterday, I submitted a few applications for positions that I desire to work. And I'm going to probably give it about another week or a week and a half to see what happens. If I don't get no calls or anything like that, if I don't land anything, then chances are very high that I'm going to be putting this house up on the market and I'll be going back up to Indiana. Because I don't want to be sitting around here, messing around for too long. So yeah, as much as I like as much as I like my house here, I like the area. I love my yard. I enjoy the climate. I enjoy the proximity to the beaches, which aren't too terribly far. At the same time, when I look at things from an economic standpoint, uh, you know, I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be able to deal with that. And also, it is nice to, sometimes I'm thinking, it is nice to be closer to people that you know and be closer to family. And another thing that I think about too is infrastructure. Many of your smaller communities up in Indiana have considerably better infrastructure compared to your smaller communities here in Alabama. because because the healthcare up in Indiana is better. And I'm 45, so as I get older, that's one thing which I tend to think about is healthcare. Like if I want to make an appointment to go see a doctor to get my checkups done, or something's going on with me and I need to go see a doctor, I don't want to have to wait for 2 or 3 months or 4 months to see a freaking doctor. And that's another thing. Last year, I set up a dental appointment to get my teeth attended because I had a couple of cavities. And plus, it's been a hot second since I've had my teeth cleaned or checked or any of that. Well, here in Alabama, it took me 4.5 months to get into a dentist. Because every dentist I called that was within, I'm going to say, an hour and a half of where I live, all told me that, they were backed up by 3 to 4 months. Again, I never been through that type of a situation in Indiana. In Indiana, if I set up a dental appointment, at the longest I ever had to wait was 2 weeks. And that was 2 weeks being a brand new patient. Down here, they talking about 3 and 4 months. So that's another reason why there's a possibility that I might sell my house and leave Alabama and go back up to Indiana. So for those of you that want to move somewhere because it's cheaper, because it's warmer, because you get more bang for the buck when it comes to your housing or when it comes to your homestead property that you want to purchase, let this video be a cautionary tale. That yeah, you can move somewhere cheaper if you want, but unless you got the proper resources, the proper connections to be able to deal with a smaller, to be able to deal with some of these smaller and lower price communities that will come with smaller economies and amenities that aren't going to be as readily available as they would be in areas where the economy is better and things of that sort. Just bear all this in mind. Because sometimes, depending on your needs, your health needs, your financial needs, what occupation that you do, maybe the needs of your family, you might be better off paying a little extra money and living somewhere where you have a slightly stronger economy, to where you're closer to more and better amenities, to where the healthcare might be better. So I understand a lot of you, you're sick of the city, you're fed up, you're sick of the politics. I get it, I got it. But there are plenty of small towns that you can move to where you'll still have everything you need within close proximity of wherever you're going to live. You'll be within an hour of a major city for those of you that work a storefront 9 to 5. So just bear all this in mind. And on that note, if you like what I do, give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. And if you're subscribed to the channel, make sure you're still subscribed to the channel, because I think YouTube be playing games with me. So stay blessed.